So actually the video, I spoke everything, but the video didn't get record. So I'll have to record again the entire other half of the chapter I was saying, but the voice was not coming actually. So it's again a double effort for me. So I want you to first like the video, subscribe the channel, and share it with your friend if you are still coming out to the part 2, and if you are listening to it and you liked it, that's why you came out, and you liked the video, so you should like it so that it reach out to all the students, and share it with your friend, because sharing is caring. Sharing is caring, right? I'm waiting, I'm not going ahead till I will not proceed. Till the time you like the video, I'll just wait for you also, because you are waiting for me to proceed, right? So all my macha machis, right? So I also started learning, see, the South Indian languages also for you all. I'm taking so much of effort. Again, I'm recording the video. At least this much you can do, right? So macha machi is right. I am starting to learn this kuti kuti, Tamil, Telugu. So I also want you to learn Hindi as well. We'll talk further. Let's start performance audit. Start performance audit. I already recorded this, but again I'll have to record again. So performance audit, objective and systematic examination of evidence of for purpose of providing an independent assessment of the performance of a government organization, how exactly they are performing. So I'll talk about few of the scams, because majority of the scams you hear now of the government scams, these are all the consequence of the performance audits only. So you can go read the performance audit report of 2011 2G spectrum scam, coal block scams. So in the coal block scams, 10.7 lakh crores, 10.7 lakh crores I'm talking about at that point of time. That was the amount of scam that happened. Why? Just because there wasn't a policy of auctioning was not there before 2015. Only in 2015, because of all these scams, they came out with the auction policy. Before that, the auction didn't used to happen. It was directly sold to the parties and the private companies and everyone. They uh, get the benefit out of this, like benefit, I mean the scam of 10.7 lakh crores, and the majority 100 of the companies uh, actually were involved in this scam. So that is how this scam, and through the performance audit we come to know about these scams. Similarly, the 2G spectrum scam, you must have heard, if not, like at then Vinod Rai was the then CAG in 2011. You can go and see that report also. He questioned the UPI government, and what was his question is that it was not at all needed in those regions where the spectrums were established, like in the hilly areas. It was not at all needed at there. The spectrum was needed to be established in the places where the population density is much higher, and that was a really wasteful appropriation of the spectrums. So that is what the question was, and that was again a proper scam only, and the lakhs of crores was the scam at that point of time also. So these are all what performance audit report. You should at least read one performance audit. I just read that 102 pages performance audit report of, the rest, 2G spectrum. And I tell you what, this performance audit actually goes into in depth whether the fund should have been appropriated or not to that particular sector. Why was it appropriated? Whether any other alternative policy could have been happened. Just like I told you about urea policy, which came in 2016-17. Another appropriate alternative policy could have been directly give subsidy to the bank accounts. So any other alternative policy, how much was the efficiency? How much was the effectiveness? So now at this particular point of time in the performance audit, we particularly need to know what is efficiency and the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, because that we have to consider here also. So efficiency and effectiveness, the difference is nothing but the efficient. If you are efficient and if you are effective, that means what? If you are efficient, you are using the least input and getting the maximum output. Using the least input and getting the maximum output, that is efficiency. And effectiveness means what? If you have set the target, you achieve that target, that is effectiveness. So let's take an example. If I say I can teach you audit in 10 days, you just have to stay with me, and every lecture I'll provide you, and in 10 days you will go through in the entire syllabus. Let's that is our projection, that is our target. So output is in 10 days we should reach 100% of the audit. But let's say you did 90% of the audit in 7 days. Let's say you did 90% of the audit in 7 days, and you said what? No, rest 10% I won't do, because I even though I do it, but I know that only 90% of the paper I'll be able to attempt. So anyway, I will leave 10%. I did my 90% of the audit in 7 days. Really thank you very much, sir, right? So there you are efficient but not effective. Effective would have been, you would have been if you would have achieved 100%. But if you are not achieving 100%, but with the least amount of input you are getting the maximum output, that is what then I will say you are efficient but not effective. So that's the difference between efficient and effective. That is what we'll do here in in performance audit. And the third important element aspect we'll consider here is economy, where we'll do what, where we'll do check the cost of resources, quantity, quality, and whether the price was at the best possible quantity, the best possible price was there or not. So efficiency is what, input output ratio efficiency is achieved where output is maximized at the minimum of input, or where input is minimized whether it for the same quantity or quality of output. Either of the either whether either input is increased, sorry, input is decreased for same output, for same output, or output is increased for same input, for same input, then you are getting more and more efficient, right? So now let's come. The question can be asked for you for efficiency as well as for effectiveness. Four mark question can be asked. Whether what aspects you will consider in case you are going for efficiency, you are considering efficiency in your performance audit. What points you will consider for efficiency? We'll see what the procurement practices should be sound. That the procurement practices procure to pay P2P process there, right, is there. So material requisition note is prepared, then PO purchase order is prepared, vendors are then quoted, quotation are asked, minimum possible quotation should be go should be we should go for minimum possible quotation. If not, then why we are going for the more than the minimum possible quotation, why we are going for the maximum or more than the minimum, the reasoning should be there properly. So sound procurement practices should be there, should be followed. Resources should be protected and maintained. It should not happen that the rice or any other materials are lying outside and the rain and everything is getting it destroyed. So it should not be like that. Resources should be protected, resources should be maintained properly, proper maintenance should be there, and proper efficient operating procedures should be used. Operating procedures, like just like I told, urea policy. So instead of going with the giving subsidy to the manufacturers, you can directly give subsidy to the farmers directly. So right, the operating procedure, administrative procedure has to be efficient. And lastly, the programs or should be efficiently managed, regulated, organized properly. Everything should be properly regulated, organized efficiently. If I say, let's say program like Narega, then it should be properly complied as per the act, as per the policies maintained, and the draft regulations, documents, everything which has been decided by the president and the parliament. So that is what is your four important points. So four important points starts with pro. Pro four, bar means type, times. So bar means time. Four times the pro word you can see. So pro means procurement practice has to be properly followed. Protected resources should be protected. Procedures should be efficient. Procedures should be efficient, and of course program should also be efficiently managed and regulated. Program should also be efficiently managed and regulated. So protected procurement, procedures and programs. Procurement, protected, procedures, programs. So procurement, protected, procedures and programs. And then objectives of PSU, public sector programs, are met cost effectively and optimum amount of resources. Like this is the basic definition of the efficiency itself. So I just said what, four times pro word you should know, you should remember pro four times it's used. Procurement, protected, program, and protected, procedures should be efficient, operating procedure should be efficient, protected, the resources should be protected and maintained, procurement, the procurement process should be sound and efficient, and lastly program should be efficiently managed and optimized, and of course properly regulated. And lastly, the basic definition of efficiency, that is with optimum amount of resources should be judicious use of resources. Then effectiveness, the extent to which objectives are achieved and the relationship between the intended impact. What I told was objectives should be achieved properly. Objectives should be achieved. That is what our main intention here is. So you have to determine the extent to which a program has achieved a desired level of results, whether it is 90%, 80%, or 100%. The extent, how much extent you have reached the objective, how much you have reached the objective. You have to bifurcate into individual program components. Yeah, okay, this sector we have achieved 100%, but the another sector we could only reach 60%. So individual program components you have to separately mention out. Then whether there is any alternative by which you could have implemented the program, is there any other alternative any other alternative policy, and how adequately your management control system is, internal control system, measuring, monitoring, everything you have to see. Then of course the compliance of law and regulation, let's say NAREGA. Then there is a NAREGA Act also, NAREGA Act 2005. So that act has been properly followed by or not. And then of course you have to see whether the program could be made more effectively, whether it could reach out to more and more people, whether it could benefit the society in proper manner. So more effectiveness, you have to consider the effectiveness part, whether it could be more effective or not. And lastly, the program complements or duplicates or overlaps. So let's say there is already any other employment policy or program, then whether the NREGA should have been brought out, or whether is it duplicate or complementing or overlapping with already existing policy or program, right? So there, these all points we have to see so as to reach the effectiveness aspects to be considered while we are doing audit of effectiveness audit of effectiveness in case of performance audit. So we'll learn this also, all these points we'll learn. If you have seen the Golmaal movie, I don't know whether you have seen this or not, but Tushar Kapoor in there, he is like a dumb, where he used to do what, A E I O so that is what he used to speak like that, like, so EIA. So he was like, we appointed him as an MCS faculty. We invited him as an MCS faculty, and there he came. He came and he lectured us on law and regulation. He lectured us on law and regulation, how it can be more effectively, implemented law and regulation. And then he received many compliments also. He received many compliments also. So that is how I'll be converting the Hindi memory tricks also in the English. Just write side by side if you know, if you want to learn like this only, because it's easy to remember by all this. Because let's say EIA was, EI is the E for extent, how much extent we have reached the effectiveness, 100%, 80% extent. I for individual program component, and A for alternatives, whether we could have done the same policy in any other alternative manner. So EIA. MCS is management control system, whether management control system is adequate or not. And then I said what, law and regulation more effectively. So you have to see the compliance with law and regulation, whether the more effectively or not. And lastly, complementary. Of course, Tushar Kapoor is handsome, so you'll get the compliments also. Even if he would have made us understand law and regulation more effectively or not in the MCS, he came. That is what we wanted. So you'll get the compliments. And of course, we should also see in our part whether the program is already complementary or duplicatory. Duplicacy, or is overlapping the existing policy or program. So I hope you are able to learn this also. Effectiveness and efficiency. These are important topic. This can be asked straight away as a 4-mark question. That is what I fear. You should not leave, you should not take it all this as a single, you should not take all this as a single topic. Deeply they'll ask 4-mark question. Now come for planning the performance audit. Planning for performance audit, it's also important. How will you plan the performance audit, right? So firstly, we'll understand the entity. We'll understand, just like normal entity, we understand in as per SA 315, we understand the entity, its environment, its internal controls. Similarly, here also we'll understand the entity and its program. We'll use different ways. Following sources we'll use to understand the entity, but we'll come to it this on the later part. But let's say what we'll do next. We'll then define our objective and scope, that we have to see efficiency, effectiveness, and effectiveness and efficiency and economy of the operations, because we are doing the performance audit. Let's say if we are doing the compliance audit, then we have to check the regularity part and propriety part also. Let's say if we are already doing only propriety audit, then we will have to see why the funds were used, whether any if at all, if it was my funds, whether then I would have expended the funds or not. Then that is the objective and scope of my propriety audit. So you have to define your objective and scope. Determine then the criteria based on which you will evaluate your information, subject criteria, right? Subject matter and the criteria. So again, we will obtain the sources, from which sources you will define your criteria. That is what we are there. This can be again a separate question that can be asked. Then we'll decide our audit approach, how we'll go about the audit. And then simply we'll frame the develop the audit questions, assess the audit team skills, whether they are adequate or not, the skills required, whether they need to be honed, the skills further required to be honed or not, and outside expertise, whether it is required. And lastly, we'll prepare then the audit design matrix. Properly we have done the audit, we'll complete it, and the timetable and resources, everything. And lastly, intimate our audit program to the auditee. As an auditor, we'll intimate this is our audit program, we'll conduct the audit according to this and that, and everything we'll communicate it to the auditee himself. So that is how we should plan our performance audit. So first point come to is understanding the entity and its program. The question can be asked you for 5 marks. What are the following sources for understanding the entity? How will you, what resources, what are the sources from where you will get to know the about the entity, from where you will get to know about the entity, right? So firstly, just I told you what there are. I also use imagic memories. So you'll just have to go with me, come with me and start learning like this, and close your eyes. You'll tend to recall the images itself, and by the images you'll tend to recall the points, right? So we can do with research paper and past audit. Research paper and past audit. Okay, first let's just go through the points. We can, from which resources we can understand the entity? From the documents of the entity. Let's say Narega, so it will have its own policy document, it will have its own uh, 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 drafted act, Narega Act you can refer, president remarks, parliamentary remarks. So everything you can consider, right? Minutes of the meeting, information on the website you can see, internal and internal audit, if at all it has been happened, internal audit report, electronic database, MIS report, RTI material, ICI. Uh, if you want to check the ICI checking process, so one guy did what they put up an RTI whether if at all we asked for the rechecking whether the marks can be reduced. So ICI clearly clarified that if at all you apply for re-verification, rechecking, then the marks will never be reduced. It can only be increased but cannot be reduced. So that is what you can also go up with the RTI material, MIS report, electronic database, internal audit reports, information minutes. These are all like the documents about the entity, of the entity documents, MOA, AOA. These all you can go. Then the legislative documents like the what I was saying, parliamentary questions, legislation, presidential remarks, and other important like the COPU committee report, estimates committee report, similarly public accounts committee report. These are all what? Legislative documents, public parliamentary committees, questions and debates. Thirdly, policy document, that which I was saying was the Narega Act itself. Policy document, planning commission has the separate policy documents submitted to them. Ministry of Finance, what it has to say. Then academic or special research, if anyone expert has done some certain research on it, which has been published in, let's say, um, this report you is it's used to come. Mm, I don't particularly remember the report name, but this report generally used to come, wherein the special research and academic is also published. Then the past audit, of course, we do audit like that only, right? So past audit will take up the audit report and directly will start working on that. So this we can't never, we can never forget the past audits report. And then the, of course, media coverage and special focus groups are also there with the special expertise, special interest groups, NGOs and everything. They also come up with this RBI report, World Bank reports. So we can also refer to these all so as to understand the entity, about its program and policies, what are they, their mission, vision is, vision and mission. So you just remember, with research and past audits, research and past audit, you'll find where you'll find it in the documents, you'll find it in the documents, policy documents. So policy document you can remember for this, just start recalling the images, just start recalling the image, okay? Then you will go with the special focus, like the media coverage. You can see here the media coverage, right? Mics and everything. So you'll get tend to recall media coverage. And lastly, the special focus group, you can see the discussion among the experts. Discussion among the experts. So we'll quickly again recall the we'll recall most of the points to this topic only, to this. Yeah, just try to recall. First was research and academic research, past audits. These 2 points I told you, you tend to generally recall this point. Past audit is the basic document which we generally use in our audits also, right? So research and past audits. Then policy document, the document image you will recall, and then below that the all the mic image you will recall. Then that signifies what? That indicates um, media coverage. And below that everyone was sitting in a group, so special focus group, NGOs, RBI report, World Bank reports. These all points you can come out with. So these are the points that will, resources which you can use, resources which you can use for understanding the entity. Resources used for understanding the entity. Separate important probable future question which can be asked for 4 mark or 5 mark. Please mark it as important because it is also tested in study material, test your knowledge question also. Then we'll determine, as I told you, objective and scope of the audit will determine. Then audit criteria, again, from the criteria based on which we have to assess the financials, assess the performance of the PSU or performance of the program or policy, right? So again, we'll have to see the audit criteria may be sought to be obtained from the following sources. So from which sources you will decide the criteria? You can see like the Narega, they'll have separate procedure manuals, right? Similarly, policies, standards, directive and guideline issued by the president, directive and guidelines issued by the president himself. Then the criteria used by the same entity or other entities in the similar activity. Let's say for IOC, I am deciding a criteria. Then I can use what? ONGC criteria also. they are into same industry, kind of similar gases and all, or minerals, right? So IOC criteria I'm deciding, so I can use the same entity or other entities in similar activities which are involved in similar activities. And similarly, independent expert opinion I can ask. Scientific knowledge, if anyone has established any new scientific knowledge or other reliable information, I can use that also to determine my audit criteria. And lastly, the general management and subject matter literature and research paper, these also I can use. So how to learn this? How to learn this? So shadi means what? Shadi means marriage. So I'll ask all you girls, I'll address, I am addressing now to the girls only. So let's say you have to, ladka means guy, you have to decide a guy for your marriage. Just think about that. So in your home there must be some policy, right? There must be some policy in which the directive and guidelines must have been mentioned. So the what exactly is the procedure? I just want to ask all the South Indians, because here we like the guys have to go to the guys have to go to the girls, or where you, in your place girls have to offer to the guys. So ladke wale aayenge, guys will come, or girls will go first. So that is what the procedure can be. So just remember the procedure. And then the, of course, you will go and ask your friends also, right? So you'll ask your friend, independent expert, right? They are the expert whether I should go for this guy or not. Just please tell me now, huh? And then criteria, of course. So criteria will be that friend, that expert friend which you asked, she'll tell you, no, no, he's not an MBA. It should only BSc. I want both. I want for you the guy. He should be, or he should be BSc as well as MBA. He should be BSc as well as MBA. So by this story, you will tend to recall all the points. I told you what marriage ke liye ladka, ladka, and ghar means home. So home mein what's the policy? So policy, you can see here, policy, directive guideline, directive guideline, directive guideline, directive guideline. So these are the directive guidelines. Procedure is here, procedure first point. And then independent expert opinion, independent expert opinion. And then I told you what is the criteria. What is the criteria? The criteria is this third point. And BSc plus MBA. So BSc, bachelor in science, bachelor in science, it should be have some scientific knowledge, right? So the guy should have some scientific knowledge. And lastly, the MBA should be having general management skills also. So that is how you can learn all the points with the help of this story. Just link with all the points and you will recall all the points. Nextly, we'll start deciding the audit approach. So now we'll start deciding the audit approach. I will just bifurcate these 2 points. Just think of, I'll just try to recall, try to make you understand and remember the points directly. Okay. So first 3 points is when you are sitting in paper 6. When you are sitting in paper 6, 6C or 6D or whatever paper, like the optional paper. And the last 3 point is when you are selecting what optional subject you should, selection of optional paper, selection of optional paper. So this is how you can recall all the points. So for selection, you will analyze what all the procedures that you have to go. For risk management subject, okay, I'll have to just read, and also I'll have to solve the practicals also. But for economic law, I'll just have to go through the theories, case study, that's it. And the analysis of the result, what are the past result, who are scoring more in international taxation, or whether they are scoring more in economic law, or whether they are scoring more in risk management or IFRS, and whatever the subjects are. And then you are also doing all the quantitative analysis, all the charts. This is for economic law, this is for the international taxation, right? And this is for the risk management. You are doing all the quantitative analysis, and this is how that is how you will select the optional paper. Then you'll sitting on the examination hall. So you'll do what? You'll first try to use your existing data, right? So you'll first use existing data, that is all the materials that you went for, all the materials that you took with with yourself. Then you'll, if you're not finding in the bare act, if you're not finding in the bare act itself, you'll try to go with your case studies, case study book. Then you'll search in the case studies. And lastly, in all the in both paper, in both material, if you're not able to find, then you will have to go with surveys. That is what? Cheating, right? So I'm not promoting cheating, but that is what students do. And I'm just mocking, just don't take it in serious manner, but that is how you can remember the answer. So you'll just use, first of all, you'll use the existing data with yourself. And then if you're not finding the answer there, then you'll go with case studies. And still not, if you're not finding, then you'll just simply, okay, okay, right? So survey, you start surveying the entire classroom. And that is how you'll complete finish off your paper 6 optional subject. And the first 3 point last 3 points are basically with regard to selection of the optional subject. How do you select? You will analyze the procedure, whether I have to go through the material itself, or I have to go to the other materials also apart from the basic material. Then I will analyze the results. For that, I'll do all the quantitative analysis, charts, and everything I'll do. So that is how you will select your optional subject. So you can go through this deciding audit approach. You can learn by this way. I hope I am pretty much clear with the explanation as well as the remembering part. Then you will develop the audit question. You will see the skills of the persons involved in the audit and the outside expertise if at all it is required. And then you will finally prepare the audit design matrix. So again, you should remember these 5 points. Audit objective, you will firstly mention what is your objective in your design matrix. Matrix like a table. You have to see what is my objective, then what are the questions that I put up to achieve my objective, to evaluate whether this objective is achieved or not. So I have decided that these all questions have been put up so as to decide whether the criteria has been met or not. And for this criteria, what is the evidence that I evaluated everything. So for that evidence, and of course the analysis and data collection, everything you will mention as a working Excel file you will prepare. And that is how your preparation of the audit design matrix will be. Specimen of the audit design matrix can be asked to you separately. So please remember all these points: objective, questions, criteria, and of course the evidences. And evidences, of course, you won't just keep the evidences. Now you will then, after obtaining the evidences, after collecting the evidence, you will start analyzing the evidences also. So analysis method and data collection method, how did you exactly obtain the evidences. Then of course you will prepare a timetable and resource formulation and everything. And then audit program, you will submit it to their audit entities. That is how the entire planning will be done. Then let's come to the factors. Okay, let's first come to the question directly. One question is there at the end of the chapter. You will see this question, RTP May 22 question. Just go through this question. You'll find that they have given that, okay, we have to do what? We have to do total cost of providing electricity is being recovered by timely submission to the State Electricity Regulatory Commission. So these are the electricity distribution committee. I'll just briefly tell you about electricity distribution companies. You can say an example of JP Power, Jayaprakash Power. You can also buy shares. It's really bullish. It's not a recommendation, but okay, I'll just tell you, these are like the huge companies with huge debts and making substantial loss. Okay, so sir, why are you recommending to buy the shares? Because actually they have restructured substantially. So that is what the discoms, for discoms now, they have come up with this Uday Yojana. For discom, they have come up with this Uday Yojana. Will they'll restructure the debts, and major loss, why they were incurring loss, because pilferage that was accounting for 22 to 25% of the loss. 22 to 25% of the loss was account of the pilferage, electricity distribution, right? All the electricity distribution companies, there you also might be knowing how many pilferage used to happen, right? Electricity distribution. So that pilferage has brought down from 22 to 15% now. So that is how they are recovering. So also the debt restructuring part, because they have huge debt, that is also had to be restructured. And these all everything have done. And also for few years, coal is going to be the, even if you talk about everything, resources like nuclear power, solar power, still the electricity distribution has to happen with the coal. And therefore that is also, Coal India Limited is also, like, Coal India Limited is also really bullish. And of course JP Power. Let's set aside these talks, and let's come to the question. Total cost of providing electricity is being recovered by timely submission to the State Electricity Regulatory Commission. You have to check this all, no? Tariff order, sales circular, sales instruction were issued timely or not. You have to check all this. Metering, billing, collection was managed efficiently or effectively or not. Efficiently, effectively, you should by now catch the words efficiently and effectively. Monitoring and internal controls, whether they are efficient or not. Efficiently controls, internal control, monitoring. So just the question is, what kind of audit is referred to in the above scenario. Just you have to identify the audit and also discuss the steps, briefly discuss the steps suggested to the auditors for planning such an audit. So planning and performance audit. The answer is performance audit. What kind of audit is referred? Is the performance audit is been referred in the given scenario. Objective discuss, the performance audit is being referred. Author's note, I have written my note, but in the suggested answer ICI, they have written all these points, everything they have mentioned in this planning, this entire points, all the planning points. Fine. Now we'll see factors to be considered while planning the performance audit. This is not included in your study mat, but still I have included because separately MTP question was asked one time, and also SM question is also there. So we'll just go through the points, but this is not a syllabus now. This used to happen earlier, but this is not into your SM syllabus right now. But again, SM test your knowledge. They have asked the question same question. What are the factors that you will consider while planning the performance audit? Planning. So these all factors you should consider while planning a performance audit of, let's say, sugar industry. So you'll have to say who are all the potential users of the audit report, who are going to read the auditor's report. Accordingly, then how I'll make my audit report, right? Accordingly, then I'll make my audit plan. Similarly, legal and regulatory requirement. What is the law which is saying? What is the act which is saying we under which the policy program has been framed? Similarly, management controls. I'll have to see. I'll have to see identify the criteria. How will evaluate the criteria? How I'll evaluate the subject matters. For subject matters evaluation, I'll need criteria, how I identify these criteria, and then to identify the findings and recommendations also from the previous audit itself, to provide the sufficient staff and other resources to do the audit, and then understand the program. That is understanding the entity, understanding the environment, understanding of the program, Narega or any other program entity, whatever, say Uday Yojana, Narega. There are so many yojanas, Awas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So obtain an understanding of the program to be audited, and then the potential sources of the data that could be used as an audit evidence. So what are the potential sources of data that can be used as an audit evidence, and the reliability of the audit evidences. So this reliability of audit evidence you can probably recall from SA 500, understanding and everything of the program we do in SA 300, SA 500, SA 300, and then SA 600 we do what? Use the work of other auditor, use the work of experts 620, and lastly we'll conclude by writing a detailed audit plan. So that is how you, these all are the factors that you'll consider while doing what? While planning the performance audit. So how you remember? You can just remember by SA there are 3 points. SA 300, 300 was what? Planning. For planning. And then SA 500 was reliability of audit evidence, how much the audit evidence is reliable, and 600 is using the work of other auditor and expert, using the work of other auditors and expert. These are the 3 points. Then the need of the users, what are the who are all the potential users of the auditor's report, and what are their needs, and requirement of the law and regulation, and of course what is the requirement of the management. And lastly, CFS you can just simply write this: F for findings, F for findings, C for criteria, and S for staff, S for staff. So in this way you can you can learn all the points in detail, and lastly conclude with a detailed written audit plan, written detailed written audit plan. So you'll in fact learn all the 10 points. So these 3 points, then these 3 points, and then CFS again 3 points. C for criteria, F for findings, S for staff. Let's come to comprehensive audit now, and then we'll finish off with the proprietary audit and the audit of PSUs. So let's come to comprehensive audit. So it conducts an efficiency cum performance audit. You might be recalling now, we went through this term earlier also, efficiency cum performance audit, where just recall. Yes, fiscal accountability and managerial accountability. Under that, managerial accountability is called as what? Is called as efficiency cum performance audit. That is, you have to see whether you are managing the operations correct or not, in efficient manner or not, in effective manner or not, in economical manner or not. So already performance audit we do EEE, right? We already do efficiency, economy and effectiveness already, but here more efficiency has to be brought up in the entity itself. That is, you just don't have to point out the deficiency, you also have to suggest an improvement, how you can how you can make it more and more efficient. And also comprehensive audit targets those areas which might have missed in the other audits. So compliance audit, proprietary audit, or performance audit, those areas which might have missed, those areas will be specifically tested in the comprehensive audit. So see here what they have written: efficiency cum performance audit other than the field which has already been covered either in the internal audit or by the professional. He locates the area of weakness and extravagance of management's information. Then what are the, this can be asked in a question, areas which are covered in the comprehensive audit. So areas, if it is asked, that is a different question. And if they ask you issues which has been examined in the comprehensive audit, then that is a different question. So there, it's a less probability that this question can be asked, but this is a probable future question, or you can ask that, you can say like, this is an important question in comprehensive audit. So what is the question? Issues examined in the comprehensive audit. So areas covered in here. So this, in first 50 copies of this book now, you might not find this topic, areas covered, this one. You might not find in the first 50 copies, so whoever might have received, so just jot down in beside the concept itself. I don't know how it was there in the first edition, but I don't know how it got deleted in second edition. But again, I've included it. I just came to know now only. So I've included it. And I was telling about, if you want to revise it with me in within such a speed manner, like a bullet and everything, with the concept and everything, memory tricks, images, everything. So you can just go through this book also, see the description. You'll get to know everything about this. And again, till now, whoever hasn't liked the video, I'll be waiting again now for those who have not yet liked the video. If they are till now, they are seeing the video, they should be like and share with your friends. Dear friends, share with your friends. Everyone should get the benefit, right? So these are all free, everything is free, so everyone should get the benefit. And you should also share now. Sharing is caring. So I'll just wait till the time you like and share, and also subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and comment how do you find the lecture, right? So areas, if they asked you about the areas, then of course, what areas you will see in the comprehensive audit: the plant and machinery, what is the capacity utilization, 80%, 90%, idle capacity, how much is it remaining, normal capacity, what is it, and the management of equipment, how you are managing the equipment, preventive checkup, corrective maintenance, maintenance of the equipment, production performance, how is it doing, use of the materials, whether you are using substandard material or using proper material or not, labor productivity, whether they are lying idle, they are not completely doing the work or not, then the cost and prices of the materials management, everything you will do in the comprehensive audit, everything, every aspect that you can think of. But what are the issues particularly which you are examining in the comprehensive audit is, you can just simply learn it as a plant versus actual and rere versus pro pro. Plant versus actual and rere versus pro pro, you will tend to remember all the plants. How? You have first 4 points, it's like plant versus actual. You have to compare what is my plant cost, what is my plant cost, and what is my actual cost. So what was my approved plant cost and what is my actual cost, that is just like a plant versus actual means what? Variance analysis. You must have done a variance analysis in SCMP also. So variance analysis, you have to do what? Planned versus actual cost. First point is cost. Then the second point is production. What is your planned production and how much is the actual output that has been achieved. So second point is output. And then this rate of return. Third point is return. So what was your planned return and what is the actual return that you achieved. And then the project formulation and implementation achieved. So project formulation and implementation that has been achieved. So product formulation, how you formulated the project, planned, and what is the actual implementation part, how much did you actually were you able to implement. So that is what we can do, plan versus actual now. So you can just mention here plan versus actual. um, like variance analysis, you can write corp का plant versus actual, corp का plant versus actual, C for cost, plant cost and actual cost, O for output how much you planned, and actual output, actual production how much you obtained, R for return, how much you planned for the return and actual return what is it, and P for project formulation. Then you come for ray and pro. So ray and pro is nothing but this ray and pro. So ray is research and development, a program how you are how does the enterprise invest in the research, in the development of the program, how does they invest in the repair and maintenance. I told you there are four types of maintenance. Sorry. Then I told you how much is the repair and maintenance. There is preventive checkup, there is corrective, there is risk based prevention, there are so many types of prevention. Then the procedures, are they effective or economical or not, whether they are efficient, effective, economical or not. And lastly the project planning, whether is it insufficient. The planning is insufficient, then definitely everything will fall. So planning has to be sufficient, everything is to be top notch in the case of audit of PSU, because again the funds are of whom? Public. And funds are for whom? Public. So procedure, pro means procedure and pro means project planning. Everything has to be top notch. And ray means repairs and research. Research and repair also you have to invest further. And lastly, the cost control measures are adequate or not. That is how you will tend to recall all the points in case of issues which you have to examine comprehensive audit. And areas, of course, areas are simple, normal only. Just try to read that areas. This one, areas that you have to identify in the comprehensive audit. Last we'll come to proprietary audit. Proprietary audit, I already told you, had it been the fund were yours, like it was, if it was the fund, your fund, then would have you have invested, would you have expended that much on that particular item or that particular thing. That is what propriety is. you'll tend to bargain, you'll tend to negotiate everything. But in case of normal for government audits, you won't do anything such like such activities like that, the bargaining and negotiation, everything. You'll just simply tell what, okay, okay, that 50,000, 70,000 is the cost of equipment. Fine, do it for 1 lakh. I don't matter for 1 lakh, and of course, yeah, for 70,000 item you are receiving 1 lakh, na. So better 15,000 you'll return it to me, personal account. You'll return it to me, right? So that all scams happen in. So that is what we have to identify in the propriety audit, whether the expenditure was really required in that particular time, and of course, uh, if at all it was required, then the amount, whether is it appropriate or not. So propriety audit, propriety element, that is what truth and fairness, the exact, if I say truth and fairness, and you have to learn this. Public, it should be in the test of public interest, it should be under commonly accepted custom, and the standards of the conduct. Standards of the conduct, you should not ethically, you should not behave unethically. The commonly accepted custom is, let's say, 50,000 only, and you are expending 70 60,000, then 10,000 is not commonly accepted custom, right? So then the question can be asked on you. And of course, it should be in public interest. Whatever expenditure, whatever transaction you do, it should be in public interest. You should not misappropriate the public funds. That is what the propriety element is. Prevention of wasteful expenditure is our main aim here. Prevention of wasteful expenditure and consideration of the financial prudence. So basically, they can ask you what are the general principles which should be considered in the propriety. So propriety requires the transaction and more particularly the expenditures, kharcha expenditures, to conform to a certain general principle. What are these general principles? They can ask you 4 points, 4 mark question. So you'll see here that the first principle, the basic principle is that expenditure should not be more than what prima facially it should be. So expenditure, if at all in that particular case 1 lakh should have been expended, it should not be like 3 lakh, 4 lakh, right? So for 50 lakh item, they'll expend, the government will expend 1 crore, 2 crore. For building a bridge, for thousand of crore they'll expend. But let's say it could have been done in 600, 700 crores itself. So that is what the expenditure should not be prima facie more than what the occasion demands. First general principle. That is what we are doing in the propriety audit. Secondly, we have to see that it should not be for my own advantage, neither it should be for an advantage of any particular or group of person, particular person or group of person, and nor it should be any advantage for the management personnel or employees and other persons. That is what the other 3 points are. It should not be for my own advantage, it should not be for the advantage of third person, any other particular person or group of person. Like it should not be for general, specifically for SC class, ST class. It's like that only, the particular person or group of person. And similarly, they other last thing, it should not benefit the management only or the employees only or others within the entity. So these three principles are like the benefits should not accrue to, benefits should not, you can just remember like this, should not accrue to, should not accrue to own, that is myself. Then secondly, to particular person or group of person, particular person or group of person. And thirdly, management management employees or others within the entity, so that is how you can learn these 3 points. And first point is basic, like the expenditure should not be more than what the occasion demand. This can be asked for a 4 mark question. What are the general principles which are governed by the propriety audit? And if they ask you what are the relevant provision which are given under the Companies Act, which takes into account the propriety matters also, that is the auditor should not just check that okay, okay, financials are correct as per the accounting standard, as per the India's, and as per the schedule 3 everything is the perfect accounting policy and all. That's it, I don't have to check on the why the expenditure was incurred. No, that should also not be the case, because again the companies also are now digging into the propriety matter. The company auditor had to specifically see section 143 subsection 1, section 143 subsection, which you see in the company audit lecture. Company audit lecture, you'll see company audit section 143 subsection 1, 143 subsection 6 and 7, which are already covered. That is test audit and supplementary audit. Subsection 6 was what? Subsection 6 was supplementary audit. Subsection 7 was test audit. And then 148 is what? 148 is cost audit. And also the additional matter which are governed under part 2 of the schedule 3. Part 2 of the schedule 3 is what? Part 2 of the schedule 3 is Ind AS. So sorry, that is division 2 actually. Part 2 would be profit and loss. Part 2 will be the profit and loss. Part 2 is profit and loss. Part 1 is balance sheet, and part 3 is cash flow statement. That is schedule 3 part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 2 we have to concern with part 2, that is profit and loss statement. So 143 subsection 1, 143 subsection 6 and 7, 148 and part 2 of schedule 3. 143 subsection 1 is this on all this matter which you might be already learning in the class itself. Of course, I'll just revise you. I'll remind you the points. A for advances. A for advances, B for book entry, C for cost, it should not be less than cost, you should not sell your investment less than cost. D for deposit, you should not keep your loans and advances as deposit. E for personal expenses, you should not charge E expenses, you should not charge the personal expenses into revenue of the companies. And then lastly, F for cash, F for cash. So the cash, if it is not yet settled, then you should check the cash settlement, everything. If the shares have been allotted for cash, for the shares which has been allotted for a consideration other than cash, then this point will not be taken care of. So these are all the propriety matters which you have to see, already covered in the company audit lecture. If you want to see, you can see there. I'm not covering it there. All anyways, you must have already been familiar with this, as you are coming from the CA inter only. So these 4 points you should tend to remember and highlight whenever the questions coming in companies matter. How are the propriety points have been taken care of? So section 143 subsection 1, 143 subsection 5 and subsection 6, section 148 cost audit, and part 2 of schedule 3, part 2 of schedule 3. That is the 4 points. And if they ask you general principle, of course these 4 principles also we have covered. Now come to uh, Caro elements. In the Caro also there are propriety elements which are being covered in these clauses. So these are all are the clauses where you can sense a element of propriety audit also in these points. Let's come to what are the exactly the propriety audit problems. What is the exact problem in the propriety audit? Now the propriety audit, it is more of a subjective nature, right? The expenditure, whether it should have been incurred or not, that is based on the judgment. Your judgment could be different, my judgment could be different. It's more or less subjective and not objective at all. It is more or less a moral consideration. And morally, every moral is what, customs. According to custom could be different for you, custom could be different for me. So that is what subjective. Propriety is what moral term, whatever accepted by the society. So society can different every the other thing also. So in the audit of FS, reference to financial and legal requirement, propositions are verifiable. You can verify whether the financial statement are complying with the accounting standard, accounting policies are properly framed or not. But in propriety audit, how will you verify? How will you verify? How will you obtain a criteria with which you will verify the subject matter, right? So that is the main problem. The first problem is the moral terms are not like the kind of the terms which are verifiable in nature. These are not verifiable. First problem is not verifiable. First problem. Second, inherent element of subjectivity. I told you what, it is subjective in nature. Subjective in nature, that is, it could be different from you, and customs could be different from me. Customs are different. Customs are different. Subjective in nature, second point. Third point, may not ipso facto apply to transaction of private sector. So private sector, they'll do what, they won't see that okay, the advertisement cost should not be that much. They believe that okay, advertisement will help me benefit like that. So private sector, if let's say you ask Zomato or Swiggy, so they are already running into losses, Paytm losses, but they what they think in long term that okay, once the everything will be done online, then of course will be in profit. So transaction of private sector may not ipso facto apply the propriety element. Why you expended this much? Why you have to sponsor cricket tournaments? Why is that so? And that is not like the case now. They won't apply in the private sector. Then despite this angularity, certain commonness can also be discerned in policies, that is efficient operation, higher productivity, higher profit, reduction of wasteful expense. These are like have to be checked, even though in the these are have to be checked even in the private concerns also. Now propriety as a moral element, it demands discretion, it demands your judgment, it demands your prudence. You have to be prudent enough. You can't say that oh, this much army expenditure in India, no need, oh, then Pakistan will come and destroy you, what will you do then? So you have to think accordingly. Army expenditure, they are expending in crores, then that is the need of the hour. Even if you'll think today and you'll think that 1998 this much expenditure you did in Kargil war or any war, whatever, I don't know, but you will point out now. But you have to think, seeing that perspective, that if at that point of time, whether you could have pointed out the same question, whether you would have pointed, no. So you have to be discretionary, you have to be prudent, you have to consider the circumstances what it was at that point of time. Not like today, oh, that much expenditure you should not have done, right? So that is what we are considering. Evaluate with reference to the circumstances in which these were taken. You have to consider the circumstances which was prevalent at that particular time, 1990s, and not standing today you can just simply comment. If you start commenting like that now, all the authorities will take their hands, oh, no decision will take, because the auditor CAG will come and will point out all the decisions I'm making, and they'll simply say no need of this decision, no need of this expending. So that will actually demoralize themselves also, right? So the next point is judgment of the auditor must be objective, as otherwise it would dampen the initiative of the management. If they won't take start, they won't stop, they will stop, simply stop the initiatives they were taking. They won't take any initiative further because they know that CAG will come and ask for this matter. Better not to expand it only. Better not to expand. So these are all the problems with the propriety audit. And lastly, come with the audit report of the CAG, which was also asked in the December 2021 exams. So here what we have to answer is that the CAG audit report, na, they are divided into several parts. So what are the CAG audit? What all things CAG audit report consists of? That can be the question, which was also asked in the December 21 itself. And the answer would be like, you will firstly introduce all the general review which have been performed on the audit part. So working results of the government companies, what is the profit, how much is the profit and loss, what is the balance sheet, everything you will just give the general review of and the introduction of the government company or the deemed government company and the corporation. You'll just briefly summarize what is, how much is the top line, bottom line, and EBITDA, everything you'll just summarize. Then you'll give the comprehensive appraisal of the selected undertaking conducted by the audit board. I told you na, IAAD, they'll do what, they'll selectively appraise certain public sector undertaking, which we also learned. Just go to the previous video, you'll see this point also I mentioned, IAAD wala. And then of course come to B point, few entities which will take up for the appraisal, that also we'll have to cover in the audit report of the CAG. And other than that, significant results of the audit of the undertaking not taken up for the appraisal by the audit report, that also CAG report will comprise of. CAG report will comprise of both selected undertaking which have been taken up for the appraisal by the audit board, and the undertaking which have not been taken up for the appraisal by the audit board, that also the CAG report will consider. And lastly, the all the company auditors report resume, he'll prepare and submit them under the direction issued by the CAG. And that the comments of the accounts of the government company, that also the company auditors, everything, the directions, impact on the financial statement, everything, company auditor submit to the CAG. So CAG will summarize and prepare a resume of all the company audit reports also. So that is what the audit report of CAG will be. So that is a 4.4 mark, again important question that you should remember. And lastly, the state audit report contain both the results of the audit appraisal of the performance of the companies, as well as the individual instances of financial normal irregularities, fraud or wasteful expenditure, propriety element, whatever. So it considers both, that is a selected appraisal as well as the normal wasteful expenditure or irregularities, whatever they come to know about. That is all about our PSU audit chapter. We'll simply go with few questions. We'll check out with few questions. RTP November 2022, this question was asked. This was also asked in old syllabus. Old syllabus also it was asked for question 6 a 5 marks. That is CAG appointed Sambhav and associate the chartered accountant firm to conduct performance audit. He was appointed to conduct performance audit, public sector undertaking, and the firm conducted the audit with a view to check all the expenses of the unit are in conformity with the public interest. Are they accept public accepted custom, were they in accordance with the public accepted customs or not? So you can sense here, these points you should not have checked na. These points are from where? These points are from propriety. Why is it doing in the performance audit? So this is like the performance audit. Then the audit report submitted by the audit firm was rejected by CAG. Give your opinion on the action of CAG. Can CAG do so? So that is what you had to mention here. You will find the answer that it's a propriety audit he had done, not the performance audit. Poor fellow had to do again now the performance audit. CAG audit, CAG can of course take such action. Next question, RTP May 22, we already covered. And last, this was the MCQ which was covered in RTP November 22. That is also we have covered in the previous lecture only. That is government of Puducherry hold 49% and the central PSU hold 51%. So I told you what, 51% or more are held by either government, which can be central government, state government, or partly by central government, and even if plus certain government companies or government companies or public sector undertaking also, then everything, if 51% or more is in a company, equity is held by central government, state government, and partly by government undertaking, PSUs, and government companies also, then everything you have to consider in this 51% calculation. And therefore government of Puducherry, that is state government, or Puducherry, I don't know it territory, or Puducherry, I might be like state government only, and PSU, central PSU hold 51%. So even though this is not a government, even though this is not a government company, it can be a government company, it cannot be also. It can be a government company also, it cannot be. So that is what you have to see. But everything considering, this is a government company. So CA Babu was appointed on as the subsequent auditor of the company by the board of directors. So board of directors should not appoint. I told you section 139 subsection 5 and subsection 7, it specifically tells you what CAG has to appoint within 30 days, and that is what the lacune here is. One of the shareholder came to know about the information and contended that the appointment is not valid as per the provision of the Companies Act, and the contention of the shareholder is right. Yes, it is right. And if so, why? The answer is that BOD can make the appointment only if auditor was not appointed by the CAG within 30 days. Then BOD can make the appointment. Unless then the first appointment, like the firstly BOD, not BOD, CAG has the right to appoint the auditor within 30 days. It has to appoint. If not within 30 days, then BOD can appoint the auditor. Hope you like the video. Subscribe the channel, like the video, share with your friends. If you really the lecture was really helpful for you to memorize, I tried myself best to make you understand the lecture, also to bring you like to make you aware about the question, how the topics are tested, and also of course to learn all the topics in the lecture itself. Watch again if you are really want to again see the video. You can watch again self, you do some self study also, and of course you participate in the test also. Join the telegram channel, you will find the link, or else you can just simply do what, just simply join the channel LIC Audit on the telegram. You'll find the channel LIC Audit, that is Audit by Yash Chandak, CA Final Audit LIC, and join this channel. You'll find all the updates and other lectures, English lectures. Audit in English is made for you now. So thanks everyone, take care, see you, bye bye.